So today we're talking about healthy breakfast ideas. And I'm gonna go through exactly what you wanna be looking for healthy breakfast and what you absolutely want to avoid. If you're like me, you grew up eating all different types of processed cereals. In Western countries, particularly the United States, we love cereal. Cereal is kind of like a foundational breakfast food, but it's so bad for your body. They're high in carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates that spike your blood sugar, very little nutrients. And of course, they throw in some synthetic nutrients in there to make it look like it's got nutrients, but your body really doesn't absorb those well. And they create blood sugar imbalances. In fact, I still remember I would have some sort of cereal and my mom would never let me get what I wanted, which was usually Frosted Flakes or Lucky Charms or, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, some sort of sugary cereal. She got what we thought was the healthy cereal, which was something like Cheerios or Raisin Bran or Bran Flakes or Grape Nuts or something along those lines. So I would have that. I would have usually skim milk because we wanted to avoid fat. This is, back in the 90s, we definitely wanted to avoid fat. So we get the skim milk. I'd throw a banana in there because banana is fruit, so it's got to be healthy. And sometimes we would even have orange juice so we can get our vitamin C. Now the problem was all those things I was consuming very high in what we call high glycemic carbohydrates. So they would cause a major increase in my blood sugar, a huge rise in insulin to take the sugar out of the bloodstream and put it into the cells. And then what would happen is after about 2 hours, so my blood sugar would go way high and then it would drop down really hard, right? It just comes sinking down. So 2 hours after I ate that meal, I felt like I needed to take a nap. I was exhausted. I was thirsty because when your blood sugar goes up and down, it causes a lot of thirst. It's very dehydrating on your body. I was probably peeing out a lot of the sugar. And so I would feel thirsty. I would feel exhausted and I would need to take a nap. And here I am in school trying to focus and try to concentrate and I couldn't. I needed to sleep in my class. I remember this as a major theme of my middle school and high school years, just always being tired in class. And that's because I wasn't consuming food that would set me up for success later in the day. So let's talk about what we want to avoid. Definitely any sort of ultra processed cereal, for sure. We definitely want to avoid that. We want to avoid eating, even fruit is healthy, but we want to avoid only eating fruit. So a lot of people will say, well, I'm going to only eat real foods. So I'm just going to eat an apple or I'll eat a banana or I'll eat a fruit salad or I'll just drink a cup of orange juice or I'll make like a fruit-based smoothie where I've got fruit and let's say, almond milk and very little fat and very little protein in it. And all of those things, even though fruit can be healthy, all of those things, when we focus on just fruit and we don't get enough protein, enough healthy fat, that's going to cause a blood sugar imbalance, big rise in blood sugar, big rise in insulin. It's going to cause us to have a lot more cravings, feel fatigued, and really throw off our day. All day long, we're going to be thinking about food. We're going to have cravings. We're just not going to have energy. We're not going to feel good. And so we want to definitely make sure we're avoiding those types of things. Now, a lot of people will say, what about oatmeal? The problem with oatmeal is, again, very high glycemic. Now, oatmeal is more of a complex carbohydrate. Of course, a lot of the kind of instant oatmeals, they throw sugar in anyways, so you have to look out for that. But even if you're getting like whole grain oats and you're consuming that, a typical cup is going to have somewhere between 25 to 35 grams of carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. And we call that high glycemic load. So there's a difference between high glycemic index and high glycemic load. Something that's high glycemic index will throw your blood sugar up really high really quickly, like within the first hour and a half. Something that is low glycemic index but high glycemic load, like oatmeal, will not cause an instant rise, but will cause a steady rise in blood sugar and insulin that will last a longer period of time, which can set you up for more cravings, can cause more fat storage, and more problems with your blood sugar. On top of that, oatmeal really is very low in nutrients. Obviously, it doesn't have protein in it, or very little amount of protein, very little amount of healthy fats. So you kind of, if you're gonna do oatmeal, you gotta decorate it, right? You gotta put protein powder in there, or have some sort of other protein along with it. You gotta have healthy fats, so you might add some grass-fed butter or something along those lines. But in general, it's this high glycemic load that really offers very little good quality nutrition, That's why we want to avoid oatmeal. It's not the best breakfast. It's better than something ultra processed, I will say that, but it's not the best. It's not going to really set you up for great success, great mental energy, great mental clarity throughout the day. So what do we want to look at for breakfast? Well, here are the principles. Number one is we don't necessarily have to eat breakfast in the morning if we don't feel like it, right? So in fact, I like to do intermittent fasting and I like to compress my eating window, and usually I'm eating a midday meal and then an evening meal. So usually I'll start eating around 1 o'clock, 1 or 2 o'clock, and I'll have an evening meal, right, for dinner. And that works great for me. You might do better with what we call early time restricted feeding, where you compress your eating window, but you eat your first meal at, let's say, 8 or 9 a.m., and you eat your last meal at, let's say, 3 o'clock p.m. So you're still eating in a compressed 6 to 8 hour eating window, but you're just doing it earlier in the day. So you got to figure out what works best for you. Breakfast technically means the time you break your fast. So it could be any time. However, of course, in our society, when we think about breakfast, we think about something earlier in the day, and we have certain types of foods that we think about with breakfast. Some people, the foods they think about are bagels. Some people think about donuts. Some people think about cereal. Some people think about oatmeal. So these are all kind of very common, breakfast types of foods in our society. Of course, none of those things are healthy. Donuts, all your like baked muffins, things like that, those are terrible. Those are combining processed carbohydrates with processed, refined, and rancid fats. And that makes a really terrible combination that drives up inflammation in your body. So of course we want to avoid that as well. So back to the principles. When we're looking at a good breakfast, we want something high in protein. I recommend at least at a minimum 30 grams of protein. Unless you're a young child, then maybe 20 grams. But for most people, 30 grams of protein to 50 or more grams of protein, depending on how many meals you do during the day. With your intermittent fasting, if you're eating 3 meals a day, 30 grams should be great. And that will really provide blood sugar satiety. Now, most people, when they eat breakfast, they're not thinking, I want to get 30 grams of protein. They might have a protein food. They might have, let's say, a piece of bacon or an egg or two, but they're not thinking, how do I get 30 grams of protein in this meal? And that's what you want to be thinking. So with eggs, we know that one average size egg is usually somewhere between 6 and 7 grams of protein. So to get 30 grams of protein, you're looking at something like 5 eggs, right? It's going to be hard to do that. So therefore, what you might do is, you might feel great with 4 or 5 eggs, or you might do something like 2 or 3 eggs and then add in maybe some chicken sausage or maybe some grass-fed beef, right? Maybe it could be ground beef that you might add in with the eggs. Maybe do like a scrambled egg with the ground beef in there, or maybe maybe like a half a cup of or a cup of organic Greek yogurt, which tends to be higher in protein. I believe a cup or half a cup has about 18 grams of protein in Greek yogurt, so it's very protein rich. So if you do well on dairy, then you might consider something along those lines. So again, trying to think through, okay, how am I going to get 30 grams of protein in this meal? That's what you want to be thinking. And then somewhere around 15 to 30 grams of fat. Some people do better on a lot of fat. Some people don't do as well on a lot of fat. So you have to see how you feel when you're consuming fats. If you feel like, wow, I feel nauseous, I feel like I have acid reflux when I consume 30 or more grams of fat, then cut it down. Consume 20 grams of fat, consume 15 grams of fat. Find the right sweet spot for you with fats, and ideally from healthy sources. It could be from pasture-raised eggs, it could be from grass-fed beef, it could be from wild-caught salmon, it could be from extra virgin olive oil, it could be from avocados. Trying to get some sort of healthy source of fat. Coconut oil is another good source, grass-fed butter. Those are all good sources of healthy fat. You want to avoid any sort of processed refined vegetable oil. So anything with corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil. These are all refined seed oils. Canola oil would be another one that you want to avoid. They drive up inflammation in your body. Try to get your healthy fats, again, from full-fat fruit, like avocado is a fruit, olives, a fruit, okay? So full-fat fruits, or something like coconut, or something along the lines of grass-fed meat or pasture-raised eggs. That's where you're going to get your good fats that are great for your brain, great for stabilizing your blood sugar, and are going to be anti-inflammatory for your system. So focusing on the protein and fats, and then you can add in colors. You can add in some fruit if you want, As long as you get the protein and fat macronutrients in, the carbohydrates you're getting from the fruit aren't going to be as big a deal, right? It's not going to throw off your blood sugar and your cravings. Now, what you want to avoid is a fruit juice. So if you're consuming orange juice, honestly, orange juice is really not a healthy food. There might be vitamin C in there, but the impact it has on your blood sugar makes it an anti-nutrient. When you consume something that's highly processed and high in carbs, that will throw your blood sugar up and create massive stress in your system. High blood sugar and then reactive low blood sugar is a major stressor on your system. It depletes you of the antioxidants you may have consumed, the minerals you may have consumed in that orange juice to begin with. So I don't recommend orange juice. So instead, eat an orange, eat an apple, ideally organic, so you're not getting chemicals, glyphosate, and other different types of pesticides and herbicides. Get organic berries, organic fruit, have some pineapple, something along those lines. That's fine. Don't consume too much, right? Don't consume, anything more than a cup. I would consider too much. But if you consume a half a cup or so of berries or pineapple or something like that, that's great. And then you've dialed in your protein and your fats, you're going to feel good. You're going to feel really, really satiated. And actually, the fruit has structured water as well as polyphenols, which are great for your microbiome. The structured water actually helps with hydrating the cells of your body, bringing really great nutrients, trace minerals, and other antioxidants into the cell, right? It's kind of a delivery system for the cells. So really good idea to do something along those lines, and I love that. So that's the question with fruit. So when we're thinking about a good breakfast, it definitely could have eggs in it. Eggs are a great food, loaded with nutrients, really good idea. Meat, fish, plus vegetables can be a great idea. Maybe, a veggie omelet might be something that you want to do. Maybe leftovers from the night before. Maybe you had, grass-fed steak and asparagus and a side salad, and you had enough for leftovers. That could be breakfast the next day. Maybe you want something lighter, but you feel like you need the calories. You really want to consume some food that it helps you feel better and have more energy throughout the day. But if you eat a larger meal with a lot of meat and things like that in it, you just feel more sluggish. Then you could do something like a protein shake, where you're letting the blender do the work. And so you might throw maybe half an avocado. We know one avocado has about 30 grams of fat in it. So that would certainly satisfy our fat levels. And for you, you may not be able to handle one full avocado. That may make you feel nauseous and not feel good. So try half an avocado. Throw that in there. Maybe some coconut milk in there that's in the carton, or some grass-fed raw milk, or some almond milk, or something along those lines. And so you put that in there and then throw in some protein powder, maybe a good quality whey protein or a collagen protein or something along those lines. You put that in there, get that blended up, and you might feel great, right? So again, trying to get the 30 or more grams of protein and trying to get at least 15 grams of fat. You can also throw some berries in there, some fruit to round it out, give it more flavor, give it more color, give it more phytonutrients, more of these powerful polyphenols and fibers, and that can be a really great breakfast. But the most important thing is you dial in the protein, dial in the fats. When you do that, you guys I've harped on it throughout this video, but it's so important because that sets your blood sugar. That will set your blood sugar. It will reduce cravings. You'll be able to go longer periods of time without feeling hungry, without having cravings. Your brain will feel more alive. You'll feel more mentally clear and really be able to thrive. And so that's so critical, and it's the biggest mistake I see people make when they consume a breakfast meal is not getting their protein, not getting their fats dialed in the right ratios. And when they do that, again, causes more cravings, causes more irritability, more anxiety throughout the day. They think more about food. They end up consuming more calories than they really need to, cause more blood sugar imbalances, stalls their weight loss goals, their workouts aren't as effective. I mean, there's so many things that are impacted by this. Ultimately, it drives up inflammation in the body. So get the protein, get the fats dialed in, and then you can figure out what you want to do. Again, eggs, right, with fruit maybe, meat, fish, veggies, a good protein shake, all really great options. So you can choose what works best for you. So hopefully you got a lot out of this. And if you know anybody that needs to hear this information, you can share this video with them, share this information with them, and it may just help change and save their life, bringing inflammation down, reducing their risk of chronic disease, helping them lose dangerous belly, what we call visceral fat, and overall reducing their inflammatory load. you can be a lifesaver by sharing this information with somebody else. So thanks so much. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll see you in a future video training. Be blessed.